Historically, without Bill Snyder running Kansas State football, the school has struggled with an overall record of 355, 553, and 40, with a man named Snyder not serving as head coach. The Snyder era has been the lone bright spot for a struggling program that may be one of the toughest jobs in all of college football. That was the viewpoint until the arrival of Chris Klieman. Klieman has rebuilt Kansas State into a Big 12 conference power who is always in contention to win the conference title with the expanded college football playoff, may even have them in the position to compete for a national title. This is the rise of Kansas State. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know what team you want me to talk about next in the comment section below. When Chris Klieman took over the Kansas State football program as head coach, he had the impossible task of replacing a Wildcats legend in Coach Bill Snyder. Snyder had basically turned Kansas State around and put them on the map. When Snyder first arrived, the Wildcats were coming off a period where they were the first FBS team to lose 500 games and had the worst overall record in the nation in their 93 years of playing football, going 299, 509, and 41, and had gone 27 games without winning a game, going 0-26-1 in Stan Parrish's last two seasons. From 1935 to 1988, the Wildcats had only won 137 games in total. In his third year as head coach, he led the Wildcats to a 7-4 record and barely missed out on the school's second ever bowl game appearance and finished with a winning record in conference play for the third time in school history. In 1993, they played in their second bowl game ever and won their first bowl game, beating Wyoming 52-17 in the Copper Bowl. This broke one of the longest droughts of an FBS team not winning a bowl game, and Snyder was not done there. From 1997 to 2000, Snyder led Kansas State to 4 straight 11-win seasons, including an undefeated regular season in 1998. They lost in the conference championship game to Texas A&M in double overtime in controversial fashion. Snyder was able to bring in athletes such as quarterback Michael Bishop, the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in 1998, and running back Darren Sproles, who led the nation in rushing in 2003 and holds the Big 12 record for all-purpose yards in a career. In 2003, Kansas State beat number 1 Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game to secure their first conference title since 1934, and in his first 17 years as a head coach, he led the Wildcats to 136 wins and 11 consecutive bowl games. His first tenure at Kansas State is still viewed today as one of the most successful rebuilds in college football history, something you'd only expect to accomplish in a college football video game. Following a 4-7 season in 2004 and a 5-6 season in 2005, Snyder would decide to retire with a record of 136, 68, and 1. The day after Snyder announced his retirement, K-State renamed its football stadium Bill Snyder Family Football Stadium in his and his family's honor. The school had originally wanted to rename it simply Bill Snyder Stadium. When Snyder got word of the plans, he insisted that they name it after his family. "The people I care about most," said Snyder. Barry Switzer spoke on Snyder's accomplishments, saying, "He's not the coach of the year, he's not the coach of the decade, he's the coach of the century." Snyder had accomplished something special that no one ever expected to be done at K-State. In his book, Bill Snyder, They Said It Couldn't Be Done, he explained, "I believe in the people. Yes, the program was down, but I guess I asked myself the question, why couldn't K-State win? Why did the past have to dictate the future? As far as having 500 losses and all the history that went with Kansas State football, I wasn't concerned with that. If you're asking me to point to one thing, I would say perseverance. In this profession, if a problem hasn't knocked on the door today, then hang on to it because it's coming. Especially in those early days, there were a lot of knocks on the door. It was just a bombardment of issues and concerns that we could not put on hold. You had to have the perseverance to hang on." Snyder would be replaced by Ron Prince, the former Virginia offensive coordinator at Kansas State, as the 33rd head coach, and Prince led them to their first winning season since 2003 with a 7-6 record in 2006, where they upset number 4 Texas 45-42 and beat Rutgers in the Texas Bowl 37-10. Although they had Josh Freeman at quarterback and Jordy Nelson at wide receiver, the Wildcats would fall to 5-7 in 2007. He followed that up with a 5-7 season in 2008, and with 3 games remaining in the season, it was announced he would not return as Kansas State's head coach, going 0-9 against Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri. Snyder would once again come out of retirement to take over his beloved program in 2009 and led them to a 6-6 record, followed by a 7-6 record in 2010. They went 10-2 in 2011 and lost in the Cotton Bowl. 2012 would see Kansas State start the season 10-0 and earn the school's first ever #1 ranking in the BCS standings before falling to Baylor. They'd win the Big 12 Conference and lost to Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. From 2010 to 2017, Bill Snyder led the Wildcats to 8 straight bowl games before a 5-7 season in 2018 led to his retirement at the ripe age of 79 with a record of 215, 117-1. Almost matching the school's win total before his arrival in the school's 93 years up to that point. For his second retirement, Bill made it clear that he really wanted his son Sean Snyder to take over the head coaching position when he retired. Sean had spent over 20 years at Kansas State, serving as the school's special teams coordinator and assistant head coach from 2011 to 2018, also playing for the Wildcats in the 90s. When discussions on who would be the school's next head coach, the names linked to the job early on were North Texas head coach Seth Trell, Clemson's defensive coordinator Brett Venables, and Oregon defensive coordinator Jim Leavitt. Whoever was going to take the job was going to need the backing of Snyder or was going to have a difficult time playing at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. The man chosen to replace the legendary head coach would be Chris Klieman. Chris Klieman grew up in Waterloo, Iowa, grew up worshiping Bill Snyder, and met Bill Snyder as a kid at Iowa's football camp. He always viewed Kansas State as a dream job. He played defensive back at Northern Iowa, where he would also start his coaching career. He would then spend time at Western Illinois, Kansas, Missouri State, and Loras, with the latter being where he would become a head coach in 2005, going 3-7. Following a disappointing season in 2005, Klieman would choose to step down as the Division III football team's head coach and return to Northern Iowa, where he climbed the ranks from defensive back coach to eventually defensive coordinator. In 2011, he joined the North Dakota State coaching staff, where he helped them win their first ever FCS national title, and was named the defensive coordinator the following year. After Craig Bull announced he was leaving for the Wyoming job after 3 straight national titles, Klieman was named the replacement for the legendary coach. Expectations were not high for the 2014 Bison team, as they lost their starting quarterback and 30 seniors, but led by Carson Wentz, the team would shock everyone, going 15-1 and winning their 4th straight national title. They went 13-2 in 2015 and won their 5th straight national title, or losing to James Madison in the FCS playoff semifinals in 2016. They would rebound, winning 2 straight national titles the next 2 years, before Klieman took over as head coach at Kansas State. Klieman replaced the legendary head coach at North Dakota State, and all he did was win, going 69-6, winning 5 Missouri Valley Conference titles, the SEC of the FCS, and 4 national titles in 5 years, becoming a legendary figure himself. He had the experience of having to do more with less, as North Dakota is not known as a recruiting hotbed, and had experience coaching at a school known as a flyover state. Not only did Snyder endorse the hire, he appeared at Klieman's introductory press conference and planned to help with the transition, which spoke volumes. Klieman kept Sean on his staff for the 2019 season and decided to embrace social media, explaining, "You need to have social media out there. You need to be out there continuing to sell the brand, continue to talk about the brand. It brings viewership. It brings more young kids involved to say, boy, I want to take a look at Kansas State. Absolutely, we have to have that." He emphasized the shoes he had to fill with the departure of Snyder, saying to Snyder during the press conference, "You're a legend. You're an icon. I look up to you. I'm going to continue to ask you questions. I'm going to bounce ideas off of you, because you are Kansas State football. And I'm so excited to continue the legacy, and I'm going to make you proud, coach. I promise you that." Heading into season 1 under Klieman, the Wildcats returned quarterback Skylar Thompson and one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12, as well as playmakers on defense. Kansas State would finish the year 8-5 and lost in the Liberty Bowl. Heading into year 2, like everyone else, Kansas State was affected by the events of 2020 while having to rebuild an offensive line and getting together a young running backs room. 2020 would be a rough season for Kansas State, as they finished the year 4-6. With one more season of eligibility, Skylar Thompson returned for the 2021 season. Behind running back Deuce Vaughn's 1,404 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground, and 468 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns through the air, as well as a top 25 ranked defense, K-State rebounded with an 8-5 record and won the Texas Bowl. They followed that season up with a 10-4 season in 2022, led by quarterbacks Will Howard and Adrian Martinez, as well as another great season by Deuce Vaughn, who rushed for 1,558 yards and 9 touchdowns on the ground. Klieman would leave Kansas State to their 3rd Big 12 title, as they would upset number 3 TCU, the same team that made it to the national title game, in a thrilling Big 12 title game, 31-28, would lose to Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. To talk about the 2023 season and expectations for the 2024 season from a Kansas State fan's perspective, I would like to welcome my friend Deluxe. Make sure to check out his channel in the description below because he makes amazing college football content.
2023 was kind of a weird season for K-State fans. They just came off a Big 12 championship winning season in 2022, and there was a lot of expectations that came with that. And so to finish the regular season at just 8-4, even with a bowl win over a sneaky good NC State, felt like a pretty big letdown. They came close to beating a few really good teams like Texas and Missouri, and lost 2 fluky games to Oklahoma State and Iowa State. The main focus of K-State's offense this year will be their rushing attack, and it'll be led by a two-headed monster in last year's 1,200-yard rusher in DJ Giddens and former 4-star and Colorado transfer Dylan Edwards, who was a childhood best friend with Avery Johnson. Of course, that running game will be aided by Avery, a former 4-star and Elite 11 finalist who beat out Will Howard for the starting role at K-State. A lot of people say he's the best K-State quarterback since Colin Klein, but I think his game is more similar to another K-State quarterback, L. Roberson. Avery threw for 479 yards and 5 touchdowns with no interceptions at a clip of just over 50%, and added 300 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. If he plays anywhere near as well as K-State fans hope he can this season, K-State will have another quarterback in New York at the end of the year. That's not to say there aren't holes, though. Just about every starter on the offensive line needs replacing, and no matter how good the receivers, led by sophomore Jace Brown, Iowa transfer Keegan Johnson, and tight end Garrett Oakley might be, it's been a relative weak spot for the team since Klieman took over in 2019. The defense, still coached by Joe Klannerman, should stay relatively similar to what it has been in the past, but that does mean occasional lapses in focus and letting up big plays consistently. But if everything goes right, K-State could be looking at a 10-2 season, which is what a lot of Big 12 coaches are expecting them to do, picking them to finish second in the conference behind Utah. I'm just going to say, though, don't even try to predict the Big 12 this season. There are around 8 teams that I think legitimately could win the conference this year, just based on how lucky they get, and K-State is just one of those teams. My personal biased guess as a pessimistic K-State fan is that they finish 8-4 again, but I can see a reality where they go 10-2 and win the conference. It just comes down to depth and luck, which is going to be the tagline for pretty much every team in the Big 12 this season.
Thank you again to Luke's. Heading into the 2024 season, Chris Klieman is 39-24 as head coach at Kansas State. The team feels like it's got all the pieces to have a great season. Bill Steele projects them to finish second in the Big 12, and like DeLuke said, a super up-in-the-air Big 12 conference. In my opinion, a lot of that will depend on how Avery Johnson plays. Avery Johnson is a former blue-chip recruit who dethroned Will Howard as the Wildcats starting quarterback last year and has all the tools to be a special player. They also need to replace 4 of their 5 starting offensive linemen from last year, including a 2-time All-American and second-round NFL draft pick. Klieman spoke on the situation saying, "Yeah, you lose that many starters, there's some anxiety a little bit. We've got a lot of guys that have started a lot of games for us, a lot of guys that have been in our system for an awfully long time, and they just need game reps. And so our non-conference schedule, which would include a couple of really tough games, we're going to put them under fire right away. I'm excited about the offensive line. We're going to play more guys." In non-conference play, K-State hosts UT Martin in Arizona, which is being played as a non-conference game because it was scheduled back in 2016, and travels on the road to take on Tulane. They host Oklahoma State, Kansas, Arizona State, and Cincinnati, but will have to travel on the road to take on BYU, Colorado, West Virginia, Houston, and Iowa State. They do avoid having to play Utah, meaning they do avoid the conference favorites to win the conference, and hosting Oklahoma State is big because they are projected to finish third. 24/7 Sports' Brad Crawford projects Kansas State to win the conference and earn the 4 seed of the upcoming college football playoff, or at least he did at the end of June. Earlier this week, he updated them to a team to watch and recently projected Utah to win the conference instead. The inspiration for this video, though, has to be what I have been seeing while playing Dynasty mode in College Football 25, which is a sentence I never thought I would say, like, ever. In my Dynasties, Kansas State is consistently making the college football playoff, but what I saw from other content creators, it's much of the same. The Athletics' Max Olson ran 25 different simulations, and Kansas State made the playoffs 9 times. According to Olson, the 12 teams that most frequently earned a playoff spot were Michigan 23, Oregon 22, Georgia 17, Ohio State 17, Texas A&M 13, Alabama 12, Utah 11, Miami 10, Clemson 9, Kansas State 9, Notre Dame 9, and Penn State 9. In the end, there were over 46 teams that made multiple college football playoff appearances in the game. Now take that all with a grain of salt, because it is just a video game and the simulation model for the game has been interesting to say the least. I just thought it would be fun to mention. Kansas State has all the pieces to make the college football playoffs on paper. Now Coach Klieman just needs to put it all together this upcoming season. What do you think? Will Kansas State make the college football playoff? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.